Welcome, welcome, welcome. Bring it in, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with His Point, Her Point, Our Future, the podcast. And we're taking our guys and our girls and we're sitting down. We're talking about those topics that we have never been able to talk about before without the blow ups. We're coming to the table and we're bringing up those subjects and we're going to talk about them in order to change our future together. I'm Tony Parks, founder of Llama Vision, and I've got my co-host with me, and we're going to get into our hot topics. Come on and go with us. Let's talk about some stuff.
We gon' make it through if it takes us all night. No matter what the odds may bring our way, I can see the blessings coming our way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Blessings on blessings, yeah. I can see the blessings coming our way.
Good evening, and welcome to His Point, Her Point, Our Future. I'm Tony Parks, and you all know my co-host,
Jesse Walker.
Tonight we have a special guest with us as we discuss blended families, both the benefits and challenges of those. And our special guest tonight is Miss Sherilla Pittman, Mrs. Sherilla Pittman.
Hello.
Sherilla, if you tell the people who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Sherilla Pittman. I recently moved here to Pensacola. Originally, I'm from Kansas City, so I've made my way here. I have a background in HR. I've also ran a lot of different programs for women in transitional facilities, a lot of community involvement, and I am here with Llama to discuss these blended families because I have been in a blended family for 28 years.
28 years. Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. As we get started tonight, Sherilla, you chime in as you see fit. Jesse,
Sure.
we know you will. And well, I'm gonna just throw some statistics out to kind of get us going, some things to think about. And a few things I want to touch on is in 1960, 13% of married adults were in second or subsequent marriages. Today, it's close to 25%. And that is somewhat concerning because that says a lot about the conditions of our families, the conditions of marriages, and people starting over again. Of new marriages today, 40% are remarriages. Mm-hmm. And in the Black community, 60% of families make up step families, or what I like to call bonus families, because I don't like the word step. I never liked that, but what I call bonus families. So in our communities, 60% of families are making up blended families, and they are coming with their challenges, and they are coming with their benefits. Let's talk about some of the benefits to get started, because I think one of the first things we need to understand is that a successful blended family takes two people that have the capacity to have a consideration for one another, as well as for those children, as well as for the biological parents, as well as being able to come together with the stepchildren, bonus children, stepmom, bonus mom, stepdad, bonus dad, to work as a team to build this, because it is not an easy situation, even in some of the best of situations. Right. So, Sherilla, tell us about your marriage and blending your family together and how that worked with you.
Well, in my relationship with my husband, we were both married. Okay, so we were both remarried. We had children from marriage. Mm-hmm. I had a child from marriage. He had a child from marriage. He had a child from high school. Okay, so that's another family involved in it. And then we have a child together. Okay. So we kind of got a mix of all of it together, and it was really rough at first. And I want to go back to one key word you said, and that's the capacity. Mm-hmm. You really blended families are not for everyone. Exactly. You really do have to have the capacity. You have to have the humility. You have to have the courage and the empathy for every party that's involved. And I think for me and my husband, we always thought about how things would affect the children. Mm-hmm. You know, children don't have anything to do with grown folks stuff. Right. So, for instance, when my well, I was my children now, I call them that, but you know, my stepchildren that would come visit me. I never tried to be there. I'm not your mother. I'm never going to replace your mother. I'm not going to try to be your mother, but I am married to your father. And while you're here, I'm going to love you like you're my own child. And I'm going to treat you like you're my own child. So you're going to get the good and the bad. For my son, it was real difficult for him with my husband, and I had to sit him down and let him know, you know, he's not your dad. He's your stepdad. He's never going to replace your dad.
Well,
But you're going to respect him.
Let me step in right there and ask you about that, because how did you all handle that with your son's biological father playing a role along with your husband? Because I would think that, and I know that for some men, they have that man code, if you will. So it's only so far they're gonna step in with another man's child, because of that boundaries that they create there. How did that work for you?
Well, for my ex, it wasn't very difficult because he was not very involved. Okay, he wasn't very involved, and he did try to throw some mix into it a little bit, you know. I guess from his own self-awareness, like, you know, when you see your son building this bond with another man, but you're not there, you can't blame the mom or the son or the, you know, anyone else. It's just that, and I'm never one strong point I make to, as a mother or father, never put that other parent in a bad light to that, you know, because as far as that child knows, they're great. And when they're young, you know, you don't, if you put poison in that child, even if something is true about that parent, you know, the child will eventually see that for themselves. As they grow, they'll see that. And sometimes a child really doesn't care. You know, I want mom and I want dad. They don't care about the other stuff. So that's why I said it's important for you to always think about the children, and always, my husband and my son's father, another key word is we always establish healthy boundaries from the beginning. You know, we weren't there to be antagonistic. Let's just work together to help raise these kids, you know. And sometimes it'll go well, sometimes it doesn't go well. And it all depends on the temperament of the child. It all depends on the previous spouse. And one thing I learned, you can't control that other party. My husband and I had to come together and say, hey, it's me and you against the world. So we got to come up with a game plan, because you can't control, you're not going to make the ex accept you or accept the other person. And you may have, if you have the capacity to deal with that, you know, you have to really think this through before getting into a blended marriage. One thing, you named some statistics with our families and just watching the breakdown of marriage. I would even say sometimes we jump into marriage too easily.
Exactly. And I think that's, in bringing that up, I think what, for women, from a woman's perspective, when they're raising children, you have different types of women, okay? You have some women who don't mind their children being open to the men that they bring into their lives. And you have some women who protect their children. Right. They're very guarded about their children and allowing another man to come into their lives. And I think generally, as a mother, you're very protective of your children. So when you allow someone to come in, admittedly, even on, I would say, even from my perspective, admittedly, I thought that my ex had the capacity to handle it, but ultimately he didn't have that capacity. So that fell on me. That was my responsibility at that point, to understand that we can't allow certain people who don't have the capacity to support that type of relationship. We have to draw back and say, okay, this is not for me because it's not for my children.
Right. And it's counting the cost before you go into it. So you have to take your time, ease into it, you know, look for certain things, look for certain signs. A big thing I would recommend is go to marriage counseling, go to counseling, which, you know, counseling in the Black family is not really embraced a lot yet, but it's needed because you need that outside person, because it's always two opinions, and the truth is in the middle somewhere.
go.
So you need that third person to come in to balance you out, or if nothing else, just to make you say, "Yeah, I never looked at it from my husband's point," or I never looked at it from that point. "Oh, I never looked at it from my children's point." But you got to be careful too, because children watch and they observe, even if they're passively passively submitting. They watch a lot of things, and sometimes kids can pick up on stuff.
Right. Okay, Jess. So from a man's perspective, you raised 6 children, okay, who had their own biological mother, and then I'm sure at some point you dated, okay? So how did you handle introducing the women to your children, or did you keep those boundaries and keep those women separate from your children? How did you handle that? If you were in a long-term relationship, what boundaries did you set as far as their biological mother and the new woman that was in their lives? How did you handle that from a man's perspective?
Well, basically, I kept them away from that situation, so I wouldn't have that situation come about. As far as a man's situation going into a household with a woman with a child, it all depends on if it's a male. It's more. It's kind of hard because that male always felt as though he was the man of the house until this man showed up, and it's kind of hard for him to take a lot of discipline actions on that child, or try to make the child go one direction if he's going the opposite direction. It's kind of difficult. Now, for a female in the household, and he comes in the household and she has a daughter, that makes it difficult as well. It's just it's a hard situation for a man to come in and take over, or because when I say take over, but we just come in the house and lead the home.
Take his position.
Yeah,
and lead.
because that's just to say that he has rights in a sense, because it's how you want to run a house. Now, when he comes in, he has come in with more authority, and bring more discipline and direction, and that's his leadership role. That's his role. And when the woman's more nurture and all this and that, so he comes in and he knows balance. He gotta stay on his track, and she has stay on her track. They can always blend into one another and make it a better situation. But it all depends on that child and how that child perceives that person that comes in.
So I think those are some of the challenges when you bring families together, in making sure that the families are in agreement, that you're equally yoked with that person that you're bringing in, and that you agree on discipline, you agree on how the children are raised, you agree on the spiritual relationships that the makeup of the spiritual relationship for the family. And when you're not in agreement with those things, then I think it opens the door to unhealthy interactions between not just the spouses, but also the step parent with the child. Because then I think as a step parent, when you have a child that's living with you, you expect that child to go along with your rules. But what if that child wasn't raised according to the same type of rules that you have? Then what?
Well, that got to be established at the day one. When a man steps in the house, a lot of things has to be established around how he discipline his disciplinary actions, and as far as the timing, they come in, the games they play, the television shows they watch, all this and that, it's got to be established before he get in the house. Or better yet, he got to make that established that this is how we should run this house. And as far as religion, that takes a bigger turn. Now the male, like I say, most of the times the male, I've seen where Baptist, turned Pentecostal and this and that. They done switched their religion around because she ended up going to his church and they pulls the kids into that direction. And it's a juggle, a big juggle.
Sherilla, let me ask you, when you and John realized that you two were going to get married, what conversations did you have to have regarding the children and how you were going to raise the kids? Was there a plan in place?
Well, when some of the things like Jesse said and some of the things that, you have to establish ground rules and different things like that. I want to go back a little bit because you can't establish anything until you establish a relationship. Mm-hmm. You can't come into a household and tell this child, I'm the new man in charge. You're going to do X, Y, Z because this is what I say. And that child does not know you. You haven't got to know them. That's why I say you need to slow down and build that family prior to you even. Because just because you say I do, it's not some magic wand that's going to make everything work. And look at it this way, with a I shouldn't say a standard, with a regular family, husband, wife, biological children, everybody blood related. You got all kind of issues in working with that family. Yeah. So now it's a blended family. Multiply that by 3 because you got your household, that household, you got all of these personalities that are going to have to come together until you build a relationship. Like I told you with my stepson, because my stepson kind of came, he would always come visit, but he came to live with us after a while. His dad went to get him, he was experiencing some trouble. His mom called, hey, you need to come get him. Boys get to an age where mom can't do nothing with him.
Can't do nothing.
And so when he came, it was like this kid, I looked at him, he's already going through issues. My goal is just to love him and make him feel welcome here. Right. I didn't, I don't care what you did at your mama's house. We didn't do that. We got to establish a relationship. Just like you established a relationship with this person you're dating, that child is an extension of them. So when you enter in that relationship with them, you getting everything. You can't have them without the child. So you have to come in with a mindset that, you don't want to give up your ground as far as authority, or because children they know how to work.
They work both sides.
And then if you have a ex-spouse or a parent outside of the, if this is a stepchild, then you got parents, and then what are they saying, and what is their family saying, and putting in their ear, because and my heart is just always go out to the children, because they're always manipulated and used. And I'll tell you another thing with children, some children they don't want to build a relationship with this step person, and you can't make them. You can't make them. I just recently read a book. I don't know if you all heard of Tabitha Brown. She's a big Instagram, she just kind of blew up in the last 2 or 3 years, but she wrote an interesting book just about life, about different things. And she had a whole chapter that's called, You Can Be Extremely Strong and Wrong. Meaning you can feel so strongly about something and be dead wrong. And she talked about how she grew up with her family. They had a close-knit family. They had dinner on Sundays. Movie night was Saturday. And this is how she was raised up. She looked up to that. But her mom and dad got divorced. And when her dad remarried, in her mind, that woman broke up her family. Wow. And she refused to build a relationship with this woman until she became older, had her own children, and realized, this lady didn't have nothing to do with my parents breaking up. But in her mind, it wasn't until she was a full adult that she went to her stepmother and apologized to her. And then you got dad caught in the middle of it because he loved his child, but he loved his wife. And you like I said, you have to have the capacity, because everything may not go the way that you think it's gonna go. Right. So with children first, you gotta work together to build that relationship with the child. And I would say do it together. I wouldn't say try to pull the child off. You do things together. as a family. It don't always be you. Well, what do you like to do? You find out what that child likes to do and what they're into and how you can relate to them, because it's going to be real hard, even because like with me, my husband, you're not getting ready to beat my child, and you can't even, you can't spend no
can't
time with her.
interact with them, right.
That's not going to work, that you
Right.
just going to come in and discipline them.
Right.
Because, I'm a strong Black woman. I can discipline them. But I want to see you build that relationship. And it really takes you to humble yourself and kind of move as that child is comfortable
Right.
moving, because like, if you get Jesse Jr., I'm just saying, I don't know if you have a Jesse Jr., he ain't gonna tolerate no other guy. This is my dad,
No,
no
he's
matter
not.
what. But so
That's
then
right.
that's gonna have to take his dad
Well,
to work with it.
In that case, a lot of kids, even in a union family right now, as of today, any family, they have a way of turning the mom against the dad. They have a way of getting whatever they need to get, and the worst part is when there's a stepmom and stepdad in there, because now they can really turn them against one another,
Yeah.
and they are biological to step in at that point, and they choose sides, because it's always been that way, and some kids always thinking that this one gets much more love than that one getting, all
always.
these kind of things that goes on in family, and it's 10 times worse, because even in my family, my mother and father's always been together, and is me, my brother, and my sister. But I could swear my sister got everything she wanted, and I ain't getting out a doggone
sibling
thing.
rivalry.
Yeah, I didn't get nothing. I'm telling you. But it wasn't like that. But you think that way,
Right.
and
The
then
perspective of the
and you be like, wait a minute, hold up. Especially when you're a middle child, you're like, hold up, something's going on, and these stigmatisms about middle child and the first child and the baby child,
Yeah.
it all
It
sticks.
is
Or
what it is.
better yet, the only child.
Right.
All these things, they stick with everybody, and it goes right through. And these kids work them. They work them too, because they know them just as well as you do.
Yeah, they do.
Well, let me ask this question. Okay, understanding those challenges, all right. If we look at where we are today with marriages, a lot of people are not getting married anymore. They're just cohabitating. Okay,
True.
they shacking up. They're living together. But they're not getting married. But these children are still there. So, are we creating the perception to children that marriage is no longer vital, since that's being moved out of the equation these days?
Well, you gotta look
Even
at what's
with the blended family.
I mean, if you look at the TV shows now, of course, I can go back to the Cosby's, and of course, but no shout out to what's happening, but the Cosby's, and you go to Good Times, all these other all these family oriented shows. What do you see them now? You don't see them no more. You'll see a mom raising a child. You'll see a father raising a child. You'll see all types of blended families, and it's the agenda that they pushing out there as well. If you ask a child now about marriage, you're gonna say, I don't see no reason to get married.
And with that, I mean that concerns me, I guess, because I can talk to my children, and they look at me and they're like, okay, my mom is single, she's doing her thing, she's good, she doesn't need to be married. So why do I need to be married? So my thing is, when we start showing kids, in our minds and from our capacity of where we are, we're doing what we need to do. But at what point do we stop for a moment and say, okay, what is it that we're showing our children? Because at the rate that we're going, it's seemingly that marriage will become obsolete. And we will still have these blended families. So children suffer, even these stepchildren or bonus children suffer from the divorce rates.
Oh, yeah.
And the divorce rates are higher amongst people who remarry and bring children in. So now that people are no longer getting married, but they're still in these relationships and they still have these children, what effects are we looking at on the kids? Because that man or that woman can walk out at any time.
Yeah.
Still.
Right. And it is a powerful effect if you look at the statistics, you know, whether we like it or don't like it. That's what's happening.
It's where we
It's
are.
where it's happening. But it takes strong conversation. I know with me, and I raise boys. And now that they're older, I have strong conversations with them about marriage, and now that they're older, I can share with them, you know, some way. This is what you want to look for in the woman, because when you can get a marriage and it lasts, it's how you start out with. Because whatever you see now, let's say you get involved in a relationship and you see all these red flags. That don't go away when you say I do. If it's a red flag enough to make you uncomfortable, you may want to pull back. You know, go. That's why I encourage people all the time, get marriage counseling. There's a lot of people, can't no man, ain't no pastor gonna tell me what to this, but they'll make you look at things that you and your mate have never thought about.
And even if it's not a pastoral
Right.
counseling, you can still go to outside
Family
counseling and
counselors.
get that counseling. And I think that it is necessary, but what is your position, both of you guys, on the children also being involved in that counseling?
Absolutely. I
But they
agree
would
with
have
it.
to be, because
Absolutely, because they need to see, and you need to be real with them. They need to see, tell them about the struggles. You know, it's good to tell them about what worked, but also tell them about the struggles. You know, that they'll see it and they'll know it, and maybe they'll think, I'll think about this before
Right.
I do. Like I have a younger son, and between him and the next older, it's like 13 years. So he looks at his two older brothers, and he sees some mistakes that they made, and so now he kind of, no, I'm not gonna go that route. You know, he'll wait because he's seen that, and he's seen the struggle that they've gone through with different things. But and it's so, when you talk about what's on TV now, it just desensitizes so much that we should be concerned about. But unfortunately, the abnormal or the traditional family is kind
Is
of
going away.
Right.
It is. And then, like you said, a lot of children now are grow up and they're, well, why get married? Why do this? Why that? Because they watch some things. They see
they don't see a benefit in it.
They don't see a benefit in it. What's weird though, whether you marry or don't marry, the issues are still there. You're still
Absolutely.
gonna deal with
Absolutely.
In a relationship.
right.
Yeah.
You're gonna still deal with issues in relationships, but it's gonna take more conversation, more, and to me nowadays, because our kids have access to everything,
Absolutely.
all sorts of
Right,
information,
right.
and as parents, we better kick it up a notch and let them hear from somebody who loves them and who
Right.
cares about them, you know, because kids will ask you some challenging questions. I know my boys would ask me some things, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I can't panic, but on the inside, I'll go in the other room like, oh, Lord Jesus, what is this? What's that? But he's seeing things. He's being exposed to things. So I got to pull it together.
Right.
And go back in there real calmly, you know, and then all of your kids have different personalities. All of them have
Every last one.
completely different. And one of them, if you react a certain way, they be like, "Ooh, I can get them on that one," and they'll come more, you know. So you really got to have wisdom on how to respond to them,
Right.
and respond to them in the right way to give them a balance. And at the same time, I know with me, if I respond off the charts, I can come. Okay, son, you took me someplace, and I really didn't want to go to, you know. But be okay with apologizing to your children. You know, I jumped to conclusions. Explain. Okay, tell me again what happened, or explain it to me again. So just being, because to me, it's like, if in this world, like I was saying before, they gotta have a place where they're
A
safe.
safe place.
It's a
Yeah.
place they can be vulnerable. It's somebody, because if they start coming to you telling you things and you flip out, they're like, I'm not going to tell Dad that no more. I'm not going to him
And see,
anymore.
that's
So you
what
have
I
to be
learned.
open. And
I had to learn that with my children.
Yeah.
So, you know, their dad and I, with my 17-year-old, we divorced when he was 5. So I had to establish with my 17-year-old at that time that we talk about whatever it is you want to
Right.
talk about.
Right.
Whatever it is you want to talk about, we can talk about. And there have been some conversations, like you said, that I have to just be like, oh, Jesus. But I can't back down from
Having
answering
the
the questions
conversation.
and being able to talk to them. And sometimes I don't have the answers.
Right.
So I have to make
Especially with a
calls
male
and be like,
child.
okay, hey, Zach
Especially with a
or
male
Ben asked
child.
me this. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think I should respond to this or that? And I think in doing that, even when we start talking about these blended families and where our children are going, we have to listen to what they're saying.
Right.
We have to create an environment to hear them, whether you are in a step-parent family or you're in a regular family, a traditional family, or if you are a single mom or dad. If we don't listen to them at this point, I know with my children, my thing was, okay, if I didn't open up a door of truth with them, they would go out there and try to find the information. And from that point, it's no telling what they would find out.
'cause
I
it's
would
out
much
there.
rather talk to my son about sex, about his questions about God, about women, and
Yeah.
being able to tell him from my perspective. Let me say this, but being able
know
to tell
where
him
you're
from
going.
a woman's perspective about how a woman might receive him
Right.
in that situation. I can't tell him how to be a man. I can't tell him how to respond as a man.
That's right.
But I can pick up the phone and call my friends and say, hey, okay, I got this question. I need your help. Because there's certain
Exactly.
things that I cannot do, and we as mothers, we
And that's
cannot
wisdom,
do.
yeah.
But let me get back to the blended family before Jesse comes back.
No,
at me
go ahead.
about
I'm not
the
coming back.
father.
I'm not coming
Let me
No.
ask this question. When you were single, when you were a single mom, what was it that was happening in your life, or what decision did you make to say, okay, now I'm ready to get married?
Well, my husband and I were we were good friends first. I don't even think we either thought we would go the other route, but we were just open to, I could just share things with him. He could share things with me about our past, about our previous marriages, and we just were very open. So it's like everything was out there on the table anyway. I knew about his children, he knew about my life or whatever. So we just established that trust. And actually, we didn't plan it. We didn't plan a big wedding. I think we had just got to a place in our relationship where we said, okay, well, where are we going to go with this? And I'm not the dating, I don't date a lot. I'm a more committed, loyal type female. And so either we in it or we not in
Right.
it. And I'm fine by myself though.
Right.
But if we're going to be in it, where we going to take it?
And that's what I'm trying to
and
go
set
with, because I
boundaries.
want to understand where, when you have a single mom or you have a single father and they're raising these kids, at what point do they say, okay, now let me get
Yeah.
married?
Yeah.
9 out of 10 is when the kids are pretty much either in their last years of high school or they're out of the house. Because
And that's the
you don't want
decision that I
to,
have made.
Yeah,
at this
you
point
don't
is
wanna
that
bring that-
until my kids
Yeah.
are gone.
Yeah.
because you feel like you're bringing a bag to the table. You don't want to bring no more luggage to the table. If you can, to make it more appealing, make yourself more appealing. You know what I mean? That's basically how it is. And you don't want to put that stress on someone else of the fact that you have kids outside of marriage, and yet you have to deal with not just me, you have to deal with that other parent as well at some point. And you don't want to bring that stress on them. So that's what you pretty much, a lot of women I notice wait until their child is actually about to go to college.
Right. And I guess, you sit back and you wonder, you say, okay, when you're a single parent, you carry the weight of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, you carry the weight of everything. So when we start thinking about the number of marriages, number of people that are getting married and then turning around and getting divorced, my question at that point becomes, okay, did they go into marriage? Because I think the makeup of marriage has changed.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
not about love.
it's
Tina Turner wrote a song
I don't
about
think
it.
that
It's not
people
about love.
married anymore because of loyalty and love. I think that people get married these days more of, okay, what benefits am I going to get out of this? And does that put the children on the back burner? Does that put the children to the back? Because you have this single mom that's saying, okay, I'm doing all of this and I'm tired. I'm just tired. You know, I need some help. Financially, it would be easier if I had this other person in the house. What, and when you have that situation, or even a father, when you have that situation and you put those children smack dead in the middle of a bad relationship from the get-go.
Well, I
not right.
I see it that marriage right now is a business, period. It's not about love anymore because love is just emotions. And emotions change. They go like this, up and down. Sorry to say that, but it's a business.
Now, I do agree with Jesse on that.
Because
the
dynamic
it's feelings. It's not, there's no commitment.
the dynamic of marriage has changed because you know, I have to go back to what the design of marriage is. It's a covenant.
Exactly.
And you can't break a covenant.
Exactly.
You know, so
But
like you
these
said,
days,
now
people are not getting married
because of the covenant. It's what you said. It's how is this going to benefit me? What's in it for me? Or like you said, you had a single mother who, I mean, really trying but just can't do it on their own. If the father is not involved and not helping, and I remember a case where I was a previous church years ago, and it was a couple. They ended up splitting up, and the mother had two or three boys, young boys, and you know she stayed plugged in the church. And one great thing about this church, we had like this boys to men ministry where you know the fathers in the church would do things with the sons, and then they would include sons whose father had absentee fathers. Go fishing, you know, they just all get in a group and go. And this particular lady, her boys were a bit challenging anyway. You know, they had learning issues, a lot of different things. But at some point, she decided to move on and go ahead in her life and got involved with a man. I don't know if they ever got married or what happened, but moved the guy in, and that oldest son flipped out. I mean, he was having all kind of problems. He just didn't like it. He was angry, and she ended up like bringing the child to one of the men's in that ministry. I can't do nothing with. I'm done. He won't listen. He's this. He's that. And I remember the whole group of leaders in the church got together, and my heart went out to this mother because they just ripped her to shreds. You know, what kind of mother drop their kids off and just say, forget, I'm tired, and because she wanted to live her life. And now I thought about her because I love my kids. That's not something I would ever do.
Right.
I want to drop them off somewhere. But that maternal instinct to make me go get them. So I feel you, sis. But after we went around the table and everybody just really ripped her to shit, you know what hurt me more? Nobody asked where the dad was. What is he going through? Where is he at? That he's at? Because he used to be involved. What happened? But I guess in her mind, he get to go and live his life. He's, I'm here stuck with these kids. And what you said, it's what is it doing to the children?
Right.
It has an effect on the children. How do we come around this and get this family structured? Take it for what it is right now, which you never know what you're going to get now with a family. And it is what it is, but how do we as a community start rebuilding, pulling it back together? One thing we haven't touched a lot on is the bonus with a blended family. Children get to hear wisdom and advice from different perspectives,
Right.
which is really good, It's good for them to get this perspective from my dad and then this perspective from my stepdad. And until adults move all their emotions, like he's saying, out of the way, that's the only way we can be successful with the kids. We got to get our hurt and our emotions, our feelings out of the way and really begin to build and strengthen having them honest conversations with the kid, because there's no fix.
Right.
So how do we deal with what we got?
What we have
now?
at this
We want to build on the positive, and then try to guard and set healthy boundaries to protect our kids, like you said. And that's very good. Like what Jesse was saying, I didn't bring them around, but don't bring that person around till you know, because what you don't want to see is, back in the day they used to call him, he was Uncle Bill. When mom would bring a man to that, it's like, how many uncles I got, mama? You
Your
don't want to
uncle
bring,
Fred?
all these uncles. What's going on? So, but you want
That's a whole
to
nother
guard them.
episode.
Yeah, that is. But you want to guard them, and I commend women that'll just let me just wait, know where we going with this relationship before I'm ready to introduce this woman or this other man to my children, because it is good to keep them guarded. So it's just
Right, because they got to go through an application. And you got to take them through it.
Background,
You got
everything.
you got to put them through it.
everything. Yeah.
Before they
I think
introduce
it's
to the
important
kids.
too to understand that, like you were saying, you and John were friends 1st.
We knew
There are
about
some people who are able to be friends and then enter into a relationship, but that does not mean that
That's
friendship, that friend has the capacity to
right.
transfer over to a husband or to a stepfather or a stepmother.
That's true.
So you have to make sure that they have the capacity to transfer from the friendship
right.
to the boyfriend or whatever it is, to the husband,
That's
to the
the
stepfather,
interview
to the stepmother.
after the application.
And one thing that helped, like with that I can recommend too, is to
Business.
just watch their interaction. Like one quality that stood out with my John was his interaction with his family. He had a strong, close knit family, and then I think he too grew up in a blended family. So it's like he knew what the pros and cons of it was. And so you got to look for different signs. You got, and like you said, you got to talk about these things. Well, how often? Because I feel like that father should always be involved in that child's life, no matter
Should
what's
be,
going
in
on. But
most
if they
cases,
can't,
in what we're dealing with these days, you have a lot of women, just like you said, you have a lot of single mothers and single fathers, because now we're seeing so many single fathers come about as
Raising their
well.
kids.
And these days, mothers are like, I'm out.
yeah,
Okay, I'm not taking this responsibility while you go on with your life and do whatever you do. So I'm going to drop them off to you and I'm going to do what I want to do. Whereas it used to be that it was mostly the fathers who were doing that. They were going on with their lives and the mothers were there to nurture and care for these children and had to put their lives on hold while they did that. But now that the tables are turning, you have a lot of single fathers who are having to do exactly what we're talking about tonight. Stop for a moment and say, well, wait a minute, before I bring this woman into this situation, I need to, she got to apply.
That's right.
I need to check her because I need to make sure that she and I can be on the same page about raising kids.
I got to make the right business move.
oh my goodness,
And people don't believe that, but one of my friends, she used to laugh at me because used to always say within our family, when we had business meetings, it is a business. I'm running my family. I'm running my family. It's a business, and I'm running them. We have structure, even with my children. I have business meetings with my kids, okay? Because we have to establish within our non-traditional family
right?
how it is for me to raise you.
Method of operation.
There you go. See? How it is for me to raise you to have the components of all that you need when even I don't possess all of the components that you need. Okay? And I think that is one of the biggest challenges where we have single mothers getting married to men who don't care about these children or who think that, okay, I'm just marrying a mom. No. It's a package deal. When you marry this father, it's a package deal. His children come along with the marriage. Her children come along with the marriage. So as we're going forward, we're seeing this population grow.
Right.
We're seeing it grow. And I think what we need to do is be able to have conversations. And this is a whole nother episode, but we're in that. Do men and women start taking relationships more seriously and saying, wait a minute, let me put this application out there. Let's do the premarital counseling. Let's do the pre-relationship counseling. Let's figure this out to see if we're even able to come together on the same page.
To understand what this covenant really looks like, and am I covenant material, or like you said, what is this? What does that mean? Wait a minute, because the thing with marriage is you taking two individual people, and the marriage process is where you become one. Do you know how hard that is to take two individual people, different personalities, different backgrounds, different, because you're not always going to be on the same page.
Exactly.
Sometimes you're going to get this, but does it balance? Does this man make me a better woman? Does this woman make me a better man? Do we have each other's back? Are we going to look out for the children? You want to bring all of that together. So it's that becoming one. And how do I become one without losing me?
Exactly.
Because you got to keep your autonomy, but still become one, so you can be that strong. Where your kids, they'll look, say, "Hey, man, my parents, they're not perfect,
right?
But they can see that, because whatever we model in front of them, that's what they're going to pick up. That's what they're going to pick up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, in saying that, we're going to close this episode out, but I think that everything that we've touched on tonight really is so broad, and there's so many variables to how step families are made up, that it would really take, oh my goodness, I couldn't even count the episodes for us to really narrow it all down. But I think one thing that we can walk away with tonight is that as individuals, we need to be accountable for our decisions. We need to be accountable for our actions, and we really need to not allow our feelings cause us to act.
Right.
But when we act, we're acting out of wisdom rather than emotions and feelings.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us tonight as we talked about blended families. Sherilla, thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate you. And it's awesome to see you and John having done this for 28 years. It really is, because that's a testament that it can be done.
It is.
Yeah.
It can be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, take care. That's our show for tonight. Come back and see us next time. We're out.
Don't believe in failures in my life, it's only lessons.
Thank you all so much for joining us on His Point, Her Point, Our Future, where we're having the conversations that are changing the trajectory of our community. Why don't you hit us up? We want to hear from you. You can reach us on our YouTube channel, Facebook, or Instagram. Just search for Llama Vision. We want to hear from you, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next show. From His Point, Her Point, Our Future, come on, let's talk about it.
No matter what the odds may bring.